Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Convo Couch. We're just going to wait for a second here to get people coming on in. Today, we have two great guests with us. I don't have it coming up yet, Nico, on my YouTube. All right. Here we are. We're in. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for holding on by. Sorry we're a little bit behind today. We were working out the technical difficulties. I'll turn that off. So today we have two great guests with us. Today, first of all, we have Lainey Peterson, and she's actively involved in the media community as an anchor for Hard Lens Media, co-host for Talk Gnosis, and the theater correspondent for WCGO Radio's Playtime with Bill Turk and Carrie Kendall. Once again, Lainey Peterson's here. How you doing, Lainey?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. We're going to get you up on the screen in 1 second. I can't see them, Nico, if you can get that for me. Okay. Also today, I have another special guest. I have a Libertarian candidate for president. And let me get her stuff up. Soraya Foss is with us today. She's an educator of 20 years who made history in 2016 by becoming the youngest presidential candidate, first Latino woman, first millennial, and first woman of Arab origin to be running for president of the United States. Soraya is currently a Libertarian presidential candidate for the 2020 United States elections. How you doing, Soraya?
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, perfect. Thank you for sticking by with us. We're going to start the show off with you. You promised to give us something. You put a little, I believe you put a tweet out. You put it on Instagram. But you have an announcement, a special announcement that you saved just for us. So why don't you start off the show with that announcement?
Well, what I did is a few days ago, I sent out a press release and basically asking for an investigation into Joe Biden's allegation. A woman candidate.
Why?
And,
what is special about you making this announcement?
No, again, it's because as a woman, it's really sad to see what's going on, to see that the whole Me Too movement and all these movements that are created or just created basically for people to capitalize on women's hurt and their emotions and what's going on for their own benefits. I mean, to think that it's a PR firm that is running all this has to do with the Obamas, the head of it works for Joe Biden, the cover-ups that are happening. It's like, you don't hear them. They're so silent, right? All of a sudden. So I said, let me look into it and find out exactly what's going on, because normally they would be in uproar. And it shouldn't be like this. We need to respect what's being said, especially since it's more than just allegations. There's a lot of proof going on, and we really need to look into it.
Yeah, it's funny, Lainey. I see Nancy Pelosi out there supporting Joe Biden, and it just makes me think about the Kavanaugh case. And I'm not here to say that Kavanaugh is innocent, but the attack on him with the evidence being very murky, he didn't know where he was, she didn't know where she was, what day, what time, all that stuff. But here with Joe Biden, this accusation, it has legs, okay? There's a time, there's a place, there's a corroboration between women. How could you be a Democrat in the Me Too movement and just be totally hypocritical when it comes to Joe Biden versus Kavanaugh?
It's incredibly inconsistent. And I think Soraya made a really good point that this has now become, it's no longer a grassroots movement, but it has been taken over by a PR agency, and now it's just being used to manipulate the media and people's emotions rather than addressing a very serious problem.
Yeah. I mean, but Soraya, you're here. You're a libertarian. We're pointing out the fact that these are serious problems. They're being weaponized politically. But isn't your statement more about the mainstream media not acting as the fourth branch of government? I mean, I have you on the show because I'm a big civil liberties guy. There's a serious attack with the mainstream media nowadays not really doing their job, and if anything, acting as a propaganda arm for the establishment. Go ahead.
Yes, I've always said the media is the fourth branch of government because it moves public opinion. And day in and day out, we see how that's happening. and they're run by these corporations. Those corporations have their own interests behind them, and it's really interesting to see, the timeline of how all this played out. The Me Too movement, how it started, and the person behind it. They made the announcement right after the Grammys, and even there's a CEO of Music Mastery. He's very big in the music industry, Charlie Walk. They accused him as well, just to get the whole Me Too movement going. Accusations. It happens to be the same exact person that is behind this PR firm that is doing this. And if you take a look and see Biden's reports at the FEC, and it's the amount of money that he got from the company behind it before the allegations and after the allegations, we're talking about $700,000 worth afterwards. And he even took over, I believe her name is Anita Dunn, to be the head of his campaign as one of his advisors to help him out. So this is all like an inside job, and how they're trying to manipulate this whole entire thing. And they're the same PR firm, SNDK Knickerbocker, that had to do with the video and the whole propaganda behind Kavanaugh as well during the time of the nomination. So it's interesting to see how the people have allowed themselves to be manipulated to this point. We really need to take a look at what's going on, the evidence that's portrayed in front of us, whether it's video propaganda, and question things. That's the libertarian answer, I would say, is to constantly question things. Why or why not is something happening?
It's kind of funny, too, because you said like all this stuff is happening in inside jobs. It's out in the open. They're not even hiding it. And Lainey, a lot of people went back and looked at the 19. I'm so sorry.
I said yes, not anymore. Before it was supposed to be, quiet. Now they're in your face and they'll tell us this type of thing. And they don't care because they seem to care above the law.
It's been a long time since they've tried to hide things. Since 2016, it seems like they've been able to justify all their actions because they think they're virtuously slated to be nominated or to have that position. So therefore, they have no morals when they cheat. It's like they feel that as long as they act within the rules of the Democratic Party, where they constantly move these goalposts. And like you said, it's all connected. One firm's working for another. One back scratches the other. So you got guys like Joe Biden who are getting cover. But the thing I want to talk about real quickly, Lainey, it's kind of funny, too, because people were looking back at 1968, the convention there, when they had a contested convention, right? So a lot of people were thinking when Bernie gets there, they're going to cheat him. So remember the convention in 68. But that's off with Bernie dropping out. But now with more accusations coming out with Joe Biden and him pretty much hiding in the basement, it might be back on again. Do you suspect the Democrats might make a move, pick somebody other than Joe Biden with all this heat on him? And if so, who might that be? Go ahead, Lainey.
They've been so stupid. They've been so stupid in the way they've been handling things that I think it's really up in the air right now. I don't even know what's going to happen with the convention, which is supposed to be just north of Chicago, up in Milwaukee. And so I think that something might happen at that point, but I don't even know what's going to happen with the convention. And are there going to be people who are going to be able to take advantage of the chaos to either, just, push this through or to prop up somebody else after they've weighed media opinion and decide what's more dangerous. But I don't know that they're all that bright, the people who are making these decisions. So I think it's really too soon to tell.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as we go along. Because who knows what's going to happen. Soraya, the thing about Donald Trump is, and I know you're upset with him, or you kind of let us down. I think there was a libertarian-minded sense that he might be a non-interventionist, but we see what's going on with Venezuela, what happened with Bolivia. He might not have started his own wars yet, besides what's going on in South Central America, but he was different. He wasn't the same old Republican run-of-the-mill Mark Rubio, Ted Cruz. Why can't the Democrats realize that they got to pick someone outside of their base? And what is the obsession with a lot of these, Democratic registered voters with the Clintons, the Obamas, and the Joe Bidens? Go ahead, Soraya.
I think more than anything is the fact that they don't have a viable candidate right now. So it's a constant back and forth of showing, the past and trying to cover it up. And I mean, Joe Biden, you can tell right there that he's not well. I mean, and it's really sad to see the Democrats, still taking him on and using him. His dementia day in and day out, or whatever he has, his memory is not working with him, and it's not helping him. And the people realize it. I think they need to be honest with themselves and try to see, who they can have represent them. I think more than anything, it's like you said, everybody is all connected. That's why they keep on bringing up the same story, whether it's Biden or Obama or whatnot. I think Obama, he doesn't have the sexual harassment charges against him or anything like that, but it's the same mentality. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who gets elected. And it's not just on the Democrat, whether it's a Republican, Democrat. Unfortunately, the duopoly is not working. We've seen it. I tell everybody, 30 years of the same mandate, different faces, because nothing changes. And going back to Donald Trump, all this issue on impeachment that they were talking about, had they really gone for the right reasons, whether it was, war crimes or other reasons, they could have really gotten him. But to keep on playing on the same theory, which Justin Amash was the one who led that, is pointless, because we knew it was going nowhere. And the only thing that it was doing was wasting tax-paying dollars. So we really need to stop, trying to accuse one another on all fronts, and try to focus on what's really important, which is the people, especially at a time like this, everything that's going on right now. It's really sad to see how that isn't the focus. It should really be the people.
I get you, but and I have a big question for you. Let me start with Lainey, though, as well, because, Soraya is a libertarian candidate for president. And I'm kind of curious, because now we're left with this choice if it's Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And let's not forget, I know you're not a fan, Soraya, of Bernie Sanders, but he was way more of a viable candidate to go against Donald Trump than Joe Biden certainly is. That's why, and in my works in election integrity, I thought it was awful. But now that we're just left with these two choices, Lainey, what do we do? Because if we're left with a choice with Howie Hawkins as a Green or Vernon Supreme as a Libertarian, those are the only other two parties that really have viable access to the ballot. So I'm curious, what is your move next?
I'm under a lot of pressure from people I know.
Going to Lainey. Who are you going to support?
Who am I going to support? I really wanted Jesse Ventura to be on that ticket. At this point, I don't feel comfortable voting either Democrat or Republican. I don't like being made a fool of. And I'm also really sick of being told, well, this is not the time. This is not the time. Well, I've been hearing that for a while, and here we are. So at this point, I'm not voting Dem. I'm not doing Dem. I'm going to look at the third parties, perhaps Libertarian, perhaps Green. I'm going to have a look at that, but I'm done. I'm done with being made a fool of by the DNC.
I know, aren't we all? Soraya, you're a Libertarian candidate for president.
Yes.
You got two people here who are kind of Libertarian minded right now. Convince us why the Libertarian Party is a better choice than the Green Party. Go ahead.
It's not just what's a better choice from being the Green Party. I would tell you it's just a better choice overall right now to consider a third party. It's because we've seen the duopoly and that it's not working. It hasn't worked for years. And who says that it isn't the time right now for a third party? I think it's the other way around. I think the people are fed up. They saw it in 2016. And again, I ran in 2016 as an independent to be able to prove to people how difficult it is, because like you said about the ballot access, that's really huge, and it shouldn't have to be an obstacle for people to be able to do it. But when you have the two major parties kind of dictating the way things work, and when you have a media that isn't allowing for libertarians to be on the mainstream, again, headed behind these corporations and special interests, because they're afraid about what we have to say. I myself have had a lot of issues where I'm able to get on and let's say right now we start this press release and we get a lot of feedback, and all of a sudden you don't hear anything about it anymore because it's not to the benefit of the people for it to be made public. A lot of people are involved. It's not just on the Democrat side. And it's something that we have to take a look at. I think the non-aggression principle is one of the main reasons that the libertarians stand out. You know, we believe in defending our freedoms and liberties all the time, not just sometimes, especially what's going on right now. You know, people have a right to decide that they want to stay home, but we cannot prevent those that want to go out and work, you know, to be able to do so too. So there's a lot of differences between us, but I can tell you the major difference is that we're about the people. And that's what's really important. We don't have any special interest, or at least I can speak for myself. You know, I don't. And that's what worries everybody, is because I can't be bought and I don't know how to be fake. And I say it as it is. And sometimes even much more than Trump does, but it just comes out differently, you know, when it comes from a woman. And so I think it's time. It's time for a change.
You know, Lainey, it's funny because Soraya just talked about, you know, her stance and the libertarian stance too as well. I mean, the thing about people like me, and I said this, like, okay, it shouldn't be an obstacle to start a third party, but if you're going to start a third party, who are you going to let in the door? Because I believe in a Green New Deal of sorts. I don't necessarily believe the one that's on paper. I believe that Medicare should be a right, and those are things that libertarians disagree with ideology-wise. But their biggest stances are election integrity, protecting your civil liberties. They're non-interventionists. That is something I saw this political season that the neo-progressives were just ignorant to. They didn't even understand it. Why do you think there's a lot of progressives on the left that are just all about Medicare for all and a Green New Deal, and they don't even pay attention to our civil liberties that are at risk and that are being infringed upon every day, and they don't even pay attention to the election fraud that's going on? Go ahead, Lainey.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of priorities. And I think that for some people, first of all, you know, you're gonna focus on the things that concern you, your family, your community the most. So there is that issue of priorities, and you can't have everything. There's no real such thing as political purity. So they may focus on different things than you or I are. That's one possibility. I think the other possibility is, I mean, I've known some people who are on the left, on the extreme left, they really don't believe in civil liberties. You know, they're far more restrictive, you know, as to what they want as far as controls on civil liberties, with the idea of maximizing national control, or the workers' control of the means of production. So there's that issue as well. And I think a lot of this, for those of us who maybe are not that on that end, I think the real tragedy of the way the duopoly works is it makes it very difficult for us to be able to prioritize what's important to us and make concessions and form coalitions on the area where we do agree. One thing I particularly appreciate about the Libertarian Party is that I agree with is that they don't believe in criminalizing citizens unnecessarily. Get rid of victimless crime laws. Stop with over-regulating small businesses and people can end up having to pay fines and getting into all kinds of trouble with the government. Instead of criminalizing the citizenry, they encourage people to free markets and free minds and open borders. And let's not criminalize people. Let's live and let live. And that's a principle that's near and dear to my heart, because I don't like seeing the criminalization of people in society. I don't like private prisons. And I think that's one area that we could come together on. There's a number of different areas I think we could come together on. But for some people, we don't. With a duopoly, you don't necessarily have that option. You have to vote for one or the other. And it becomes very difficult for people to build those coalitions.
It is, because I remember, they wouldn't let the Tulsi people in the door, these Bernie crats. They wouldn't let us in the door. I said, why aren't you going to represent me? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I understand. And I was called a libertarian, like, oh, you're such a libertarian because my civil liberties were so important to me. And I think when we have this form of censorship, you're never going to get anything you want. If we don't close down the keys to the kingdom, in other words, if we don't stop these mainstream media personalities from putting out their narrative and suppressing ours, we're never going to get a Green New Deal. We're never going to get Medicare for all. But Soraya, if I came to you today and you were the libertarian candidate for president, and I said, hey, listen, I tell you what, to protect our civil liberties, we'll hand over all the governing of the internet to the FEC, or is it the FCC? It's the FCC, excuse me. And we'll make sure that we'll keep an eye on these things. We won't let big tech run rampant. Would you agree to give the progressives? Could we make a halfway, consideration for banning on fracking? In other words, are the libertarians ready to give us something up to the progressives to form a coalition, to really form a third party that's worth having? Go ahead.
You know, it's funny that you said that. I've actually been talking with a few people from the Constitutional Party already, and I'm looking to do that because if we can come together, at least starting with the third parties, the independents, you have to remember about 54% of the Americans identify themselves as non-party affiliates or independents. And if we can get those people to come out and to support of, we can actually have a larger voice. We could really create a revolution. And that's what I'm about right now. It is about coming together. And maybe not all libertarians agree with me, but you know what? That's fine. Because at the end of the day, it's about the people. It's not about, I've noticed, unfortunately, that the establishment is everywhere. Okay, it's not just with the two major parties. We have issues going on within the libertarian leadership ourselves. Okay, and you find that everywhere. Okay,
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem because they forget about the principles and the ideals and what it is that we're supposed to be representing. And on the libertarian stance, I can tell you exactly that those that are there for the right reasons and because they see that there is a future, and the future is a third party at the end of the day, because we've already had enough of the duopoly and everybody's seen it's not working. So everybody wants lower taxes, close to none, because we wouldn't have the issues that we're having now. Are our freedoms and liberties worth $1,200? If you really take a look at it and everything that's going on and the things that we're told we can and we cannot do and the control that they want to have, that's something that I never liked about the Democrats. They like to have everybody comfortable.
Yeah.
Don't worry about putting programs. Don't worry about educating people more so they can get themselves a real job. As long as they're there and they're getting a check or whatever it is that they're receiving, why do they have to put the effort? And then you have everybody else taking a look at them, especially the middle class is always the one that's enfranchised. They're working 2 to 3 jobs just to maintain their family. And then they see somebody else, that's collecting a check sitting there doing nothing at all. So why would they have to continue working? It's the other way around. We're supposed to be showing people, that there is a silver lining, that there is a way out of this, and we can do it together.
Yeah, well, if you have the recipe on how we can do that to convince people, because the cancel culture to me is bigger than anything. Lainey, we're talking about Jesse Ventura over here. He was going green, but he was very libertarian minded. I saw your show on him the other day. This was the populist candidate we needed.
Absolutely.
So what I got is a couple videos, and I want to start off. And Lainey, I just want your overall opinion on why you thought Jesse Ventura for this show, because I saw it on your show, but the macro on why Jesse Ventura was the perfect candidate to go against Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Go right ahead.
Ticks all the boxes: military experience, executive experience as a mayor and a governor of a Midwestern state. He's got significant media experience, radio and television news shows. Also, and I'm not crazy about this, but he's got the celebrity factor. Donald Trump was a reality show star. Jesse Ventura, pro wrestling and the movies, and he has the celebrity factor. He's got the charisma. You don't ignore him. You can't ignore him. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, you can't ignore him. Same thing with Jesse Ventura. So all of that I felt did come together. But my position is that pro wrestling psychology has had a big impact on Donald Trump's success in his presidency. Remember, the head of the WWE is also the head of the Small Business Administration. He's friends with the McMahons. And Jesse Ventura knows pro wrestling and knows pro wrestling psychology. To me, he was the perfect candidate, the perfect populist candidate. Also a very intelligent man. So he brought all that together.
Yeah, I mean, I heard you say it on your show. That's why when I heard you say that, I'm like, I got to get Lainey on to say that, because this is like people take the wrestling experience for granted. That's Captain Freedom. And, most of the voters are low-informed voters. They're very consumed, working 2 or 3 jobs. They're not in the bubble like us. And he really reaches them and speaks to them. Nico, can we play that first video real quick? Because it's about what he said, too, as well. And this is what I loved about Jesse. He's really progressed in a way where I think you can consider him a green or a libertarian. But look what he points out here about waterboarding. Go right ahead. Do you hear it, guys? Do you hear me? Okay, never mind. Anyways, listen. Yeah, pretty much what happened was Jesse Ventura went on The View, guys. I don't know if you saw this, ladies, and he talked about waterboarding, right?
Yeah, I did.
And he even pointed out, and he said this. It was very. He says, for some reason, we only waterboard Muslims. What's that all about? We don't see police in the streets waterboarding, people to try to get information about that. When he said that to me, and I was like, wow, that is really strong. That really speaks to the imperialistic, racist, systemic ways of our military, which a lot of people, a lot of these social justice warriors, they're like, oh, we're fighting for racial justice back at home. What about what's going on in Syria? What about what's going on in the Middle East? We're waterboarding Muslims. Go ahead, Soraya.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that that's going on. And you brought up Syria and the Middle East and what's happening right now. I would tell you it breaks my heart to see that they're having additional sanctions on top of everything that they're going through right now that's impeding them from getting the medical care and the supplies that they need in order to help combat this disease and what's going with what's happening. And they're getting continuous bombardment from Israel. Just the other day, they hit Aleppo. And you know what that was? That was Cancer Institute of Research. It wasn't no weapon. It wasn't any of that. They're hurting them, to make sure they're crippling them and that their people have no way of getting any type of CT scans. They can't get any of that stuff anymore. It's how fair is that? Or take a look at what Trump did with Germany with the masks as well. It's that constant,
it's disgusting shit.
That
he's not pulling out of Syria either. So, Lainey, did you have something to say?
He said he's there on record because he's selling their oil. Who does that?
Yes, said it. Lainey, you got anything to say about that?
I think pretty much said it all. But yeah, the waterboarding, I thought he was very very upfront. Said, yeah, it happened to him. It was part of his training in the military, and it happened to him. It's torture. It shouldn't be happening. And he just came right out and answered. Somebody who's not speaking in theory. He knows.
Yeah, I think it would have been so great to hear him say, you want to talk about waterboarding Donald Trump? Well, I've been waterboarded. And I think he said, give me freaking an hour with Dick Cheney to waterboard him, and he'll get Dick Cheney to confess to the Sharon Tate murders. But there's another clip out there with that little schmuck from Fox on the Fox and Friends. I like the guy named Jesse whatever. You saw.
Yeah.
He tried to kind of corner Jesse Ventura about a certain civil case Jesse had when somebody had kind of plagiarized Jesse, and Jesse had sued him, and then he had told lies. But to me, it was all about that wrestling mentality, Lainey, how it works. Can you just give me a little snippet on why you think the small WrestleMania kind of talking mentality will really play to the masses and would have gotten them to vote for him?
It's a matter of manipulating emotions, getting people excited about something, and getting them to react. And Donald Trump is very, very good at that. He's the master at getting people to react. Good or bad doesn't matter. It gets the reaction. That's the whole thing in professional wrestling. You can be a good guy or a bad guy. It does not matter. The whole thing is, do you get that audience to react? Well, Jesse knows that mentality. He knows how to use it, but he also probably knows how to defend against it and respond like with like. And I think that's critical because I don't think, for example, the Clintons understood that. I don't think the DNC understands that, but Jesse Ventura does.
Yeah, we're going to get a clip here. Take a look at this clip. This is the first one, right? All right, I have 5 in there, but that's okay. Play one.
I salute Colin Kaepernick. I fully support him. Fully and completely. That's why I served my country, so that you have the freedom to protest. If we don't like protesting, what's next? I don't have to agree with him, but I'll still respect his right to do it. And everyone should respect that. He shouldn't be booed. And who's he harming? When I was governor of Minnesota, the Dems and Repubs tried to nail me. You know what they did? They passed a law requiring the Pledge of Allegiance for all public school children. I immediately vetoed it. You know why? Because governments should not mandate patriotism. Governments earn patriotism. You earn that. Who mandated patriotism? The Germans in the 1930s. They mandated patriotism. That's what we want to be. We want to build walls now and be East Berlin. That's the direction of the United States today. I salute Colin Kaepernick for having courage, a man of his convictions, and he's also putting $1 million, putting his money where his stance is. Good for him. Whether I agree with him or not is irrelevant.
All right. So, I wanted to play that clip right there because you talk about the ultimate populist candidate. Soraya, you saw that right there. That's also about our civil liberties and the way we look at things. I think some people on the left, they take the easy bait when the censorship argument is thrown at them. Oh, we got to protect people from racial slurs or these slurs or those slurs, or this person is Russian or whatever the case may be. But really right there, that was all about protecting our civil liberties. And that's really important to us. And I think he's such a populist candidate that he could explain that to the masses in such an easy way. Go ahead, Soraya.
I mean, it's kind of like what you're saying. It's that whole, the way you say things. And again, I'm not any different from them either. And the fact that I have a diversity, and the languages that I speak, I'm going to be able to appeal to the public. And I think it's going to bring in, as a nominee for the Libertarian Party, it's going to bring in a lot of awareness because a lot of people don't even know that third parties exist. They don't know about them. They don't, because all they keep on hearing in the mainstream media is about the Republicans and Democrats. I think it's a language, cultural and language barrier is what I see, especially among the Hispanics, because when they become citizens, they automatically register Democrat because they're running away from socialism and communism and whatever it is that they had in their country. And they have this misconception that Democrat means democracy. So they're in search of democracy constantly. They automatically register as Democrat. And then the libertarian stance, they seem to think libertarian, the word means liberal. So a lot of people are turned off because of that as well. So it's about educating the people. I think that's what's important. And once people have a concept of what things really mean, it's also going to create an understanding, and that's what's going to bring about the unity and peace in this country.
That's an interesting point. Lainey, we're going to get out of here right now, but let's going to finish this on up. What do we have to do moving forward right now? It doesn't seem like we have a lot of choices. We're going to come out of this whole COVID thing. I think, the old normal is gone. There's going to be a new normal. From what they just gave us in the CARES Act and all these bills and bailouts, they're showing us, Soraya said earlier, $1,200 is all we're worth. We're going to be in some serious trouble. What do we do politically moving forward to right the ship now? Because we're in this weird space we've never been. We can't even go out and protest, and we look pretty fucked. So what do we do politically, Lainey, moving forward?
Jesse Ventura said something very important. He said that patriotism is earned, and it really kind of stinks when people are getting screwed over perpetually by governments and political parties and then told to fall in line because, we need to do that right now. That's BS. I would say that, yes, we can't protest in the streets. We can't assemble, but we do have tools. Many of us, not all, but many of us have tools to work together online. I think that there's going to need to be a lot of local organizing concern with what's going on at the local level, because that's where people are living and having to make decisions about jobs and businesses and that sort of thing. I think there's going to have to be a rebuilding of trust at the local level, which is easier to do if you have a shared community and shared values. At the national level, I think we really do have a serious problem. It's a predicament. It's not going to be solved easily. We're going to have to adapt to that predicament, and that may take some time. But the local level may be the best shot that we all have at this point, because that's where our community lies.
That's, what, I would love to do that. I would love to build a bench from the local level, but our elections are screwed, and it's, pretty much controlled by a lot of the Democrats and Republicans, depending on what state. Soraya, why haven't the Libertarians made a big call out against election integrity and challenge these things and make more noise about it? It was Jill Stein and the Greens who actually made some noise and showed some fuckery in 2016. Where are the Libertarians on this? Because don't they believe in the First Amendment rights more than anybody?
Oh, of course. I myself filed a lawsuit in Texas over ballot access. You know, it was one of the first states that you needed to qualify, and I was questioning, why do I have to fulfill different requirements than the Republicans and Democrats do? That's very unconstitutional. It should be fair for everybody. At a time like this, with everything going on, you're going to see a lot of people trying to take advantage and manipulate it. And it's not that the Libertarian Party is silent. It's the other way around. It's because the mainstream media is afraid of what message we're going to put out there. And that's the real reason why the Libertarians and all the third parties are being silenced right now, because they don't want people to know or to change their views and concepts and perspectives. Because remember, we said the media is the one that moves public opinion. That's why people need to turn away from the mainstream media, because like Trump says, there is such a thing as fake news until he started believing it and fabricating it himself. So you have to always look at both sides of the story, do your own investigations for you to be able to find out the truth and what it is that's going on.
Thank you. I mean, I love that last statement. Lainey, she says we need to get independent media out there, more truth tellers. I saw Soraya on one of my favorite shows, Crosstalk, and I was like, I had to have her on. But a lot of times, even though RT, has some of the best liberals and progressives that have been thrown off mainstream media, they've kind of matriculated over there, but they still get a bad name. And the everyday person go, RT, I can't listen to them. That's propaganda. What do we do as independent media to really break through? I mean, I know Rachel Maddow has provided a lane for people like me, you, Nico House, but how do we further break forward and break through when they're throttling our narrative? Go ahead.
I think we need to get really smart about money. I think we need to stop with this fear of prosperity and doing business right. We're going to need that money for one thing. All of us work. I don't know about you, but I know I work a job. Most of the people I work with at Hardlands, they all have jobs. So the amount of money that's going to be needed to give us the time to do investigative journalism, to have good equipment, but also to get more training in journalistic techniques. We've got to figure out a way to bring some money into this and not have a poverty mentality, thinking that's noble, but to move forward, be good business people, get that money and start putting together high quality investigative journalism and commentary. And that's going to require us getting our houses in order.
That's some great advice, ladies. Thank you so much.
The problem too is that there's a fear in what's been overall, because we've seen what's happened with Julian Assange and all these investigative journalists. Roger Stone, he published a lot of books, whether it was the Clintons' war on women or the Bush war crime family. You know what it is? It's that they're hurting the messenger as opposed to investigating and looking into the message that was given. We've seen it with the Hillary emails and all that. And I think that's created a fear for people, because now it's like, where's our right to freedom of speech? So that's a major issue. So until they free Julian Assange and we're able to restore our freedoms in that sense, you're going to see a lot of people being reluctant to actually go ahead and do that.
Yeah. There's an independent journalist out there named Dak Rowley who's gotten into a lot of people's faces. I got grabbed for asking Pete Buttigieg that same question. Will you drop the charges against Assange? And they avoid that question like the plague. And really, to tell you the truth, I don't see a way out of it when it comes to Julian Assange with what we have in place as far as the structure and the people who are running things. It looks like they want to bury Assange, and they've been able to sell it to the public that this guy was nefarious and he stole information. So, yeah, I think it's one hand washes the other. Go ahead, say it again, Soraya.
The problem is that if Trump wasn't afraid of what he has more to say,